When it comes to backyard barbecues, I'm all about the classics and keeping it easy so that you can have fun. I have the perfect cookout menu that includes our familiar favorites, plus some surprises, plus some tricks, and a little something to sip at the end. Let's go. For our main dish, I'm giving you classic old school barbecue chicken with a homemade barbecue sauce. And then we've got our sides, and to me, the sides are just as important as the star of the show. We'll start with a classic potato salad, followed by some baked beans, and then coleslaw. Some fresh fruit for the table, a dessert from my childhood, and even a cocktail. Before we can go outside, of course, we've got to get the sides going. I said I like the classics. You gotta have potato salad, you gotta have baked beans, and you gotta have coleslaw. Those are the non-negotiables. So I'm starting with just a classic potato salad. I like one that is a little creamy, kind of like Southern style. The thing about all these recipes is that obviously they're gonna be easy because I promised you that, but also this type of menu is very affordable. It's very conducive to making big batches of things. One bag of potatoes can feed an army. And I'm just using russets here because I like in my potato salad for it to break down a little bit, almost like mashed potatoes. This is obviously the homemade side, but I do have some that include a little shortcut. And wait till you see the dessert. Okay, potatoes in, you wanna salt your water and get it going on the stove. You know I'm gonna work efficiently. We're gonna put this whole thing together in one day. The potato salad gets hard-boiled eggs, so I like to boil the eggs in with the potatoes. I rinsed off my eggs because last time I did something like this, y'all had a fit. It'll be fine, it all boils off. So as the potatoes start to cook, the eggs will too, and then we'll drain it all together. It's efficient, it's not scary. So celery goes in, I like to include some leaves. They just add a little bit of fresh flavor. And while the potatoes cook, all you have to cut up is a little bit of celery and green onion. I like using the green onion instead of a regular onion here, just so you don't get so much oniony bite, but you still get the flavor, and then it has the pretty green color. When I'm using ingredients like this, you can save a little bit for a garnish later. Instead of a relish, I like to use pickles and cut them up myself because I just like that. And I love getting like a sweet and spicy pickle, but you can use relish here if you want. Our dressing is mayonnaise based because that's what I like. But don't worry, this will not get hot and gross sitting out at the barbecue. I'm gonna show you a mind-blowing hack to keep it cold while it's on the table. A little mayonnaise, and I like to cut some of the mayonnaise with a little bit of sour cream. The mayonnaise is just really rich, and the sour cream kind of adds that little twang. A little bit of our pickle juice. A little yellow mustard because we are in the South over here, and this is the way we do it. Lots of pepper, and then I'll check for the salt in a little while after we add our potatoes. Some fresh dill. You can use dried dill here if you feel like it. This just adds great flavor to the dressing. Okay, and then in with our pickles, onions, and celery. See? Easy, easy. Another great thing about the potato salad is that you can do this a day or two in advance if you want. So now this is ready. All we have to add are our potatoes and eggs. You're gonna have two pans, one for the potato salad and one to keep it cold. And to do that, we're going to freeze a thin layer of ice on the bottom. Have y'all done this before? I mean, you might have, because it's been around a minute. But you want to fill up your pan about a third of the way, and then it will freeze, and I can't wait to show you. I just love this. All right, so the eggs are going to be done before the potatoes, so I like to pull them out and shock them in a little ice water. It's going to make them easier to peel, and then we'll let our potatoes keep going a few more minutes. Okay, so now I'm just going to like kind of rough chop them. They don't have to be perfect. Potatoes done. They're well done. I'm gonna try to cool them off fast by laying them out on a sheet pan. I like to mix it while it's still warm. I think it absorbs all the flavors better. Plus I love to eat it when it's slightly warm. I just think it tastes good. That looks good. All right, I didn't add salt earlier, so salt and a little more pepper. Creamy, still chunky, but the part of the potato that did fall apart helped make this creamy, like a really creamy, like mashed potato. Overcook the potatoes. That's the key. That is a good looking potato salad, if I do say so myself. This didn't come from the grocery store deli. A little bit of the green onions we saved from earlier. And every Southern deviled egg or potato salad has to have a little bit of paprika. My husband's grandmother used to say paprika, little paprika. Done and done, on to the next. Next is my kids' favorite side, the baked beans. 10 out of 10 times when I make baked beans, it's all about doctoring up a can. That's what my mom calls it. you just doctor it up. That's what we're gonna do. And all you have to add really to do that are a couple pantry staples and a few ingredients. Bacon, I've got about 8 slices chopped up, and we're just gonna get that browned. And while that happens, we'll just chop up a little bit of onion and pepper. The power of a little onion is just amazing. I would say I put onion in 90% of things I make. My mom used to use green bell pepper in her baked beans, but I love the flavor of a jalapeno in there. I will take the seeds out because I don't want it to be too spicy, so I just do 2 to 3 seeded and chopped. This is also something you could do the day before and then just pop them in the oven the day of. All right, you want the bacon to be pretty crispy. Leave the fat in the skillet, and we're gonna cook our peppers and onion. All we're gonna do is just cook this to soften it up a little bit. I'm doctoring up the canned baked beans. Like I told you, I'm using 3 of the big cans. Here's how I doctor them up. You know, like when you open it and there's this like layer of sauce on the top, I pour that off because I'm gonna create my own sauce. So I just kind of pour off that top layer. You just don't need it, you know? I'm adding in a little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of ketchup, a little mustard, and the way I'm doctoring these beans up is kind of how I do sloppy joes. It's like similar flavors. A little Worcestershire. There's a lot of sweetness in here, and when that bakes, it caramelizes, so it kind of creates a little kind of crust around the edges. It tightens up. It's so good. It's got it all. Sweet, salty, kick of spice from the jalapeno. Mix it all together and pour it in your pan. Okay, and now a layer of bacon on the top. So that looks way better than Grandma used to do with those strips of bacon laid across the top. This way everybody gets a little bacon. Don't those look good? I mean, they look just completely homemade. Shortcuts are good. Okay, so now I'm going to pop these in the oven. But if you wanted to make this ahead of time, you could stop here and then cook them off tomorrow. But we're gonna go straight in. And it's just $3.75 till it's all bubbly and good. The beans are smelling incredible. Look at that. Browned and bubbly. These look so good, but they smell even better. I'm just gonna keep these warm while we get everything else ready for the barbecue. Knocking them out. For my next trick, the best brownie you'll ever eat. Brownies at a barbecue are just the perfect like potluck dessert. And this one I have pulled out from the past. For every memory of us like cooking out at the lake, my mom's friend would bring these brownies. I don't know what they were called. I don't remember us calling them anything other than like Charlotte's brownies. The first like key ingredient is that you have to use like German chocolate cake mix. So we're using a store-bought cake mix to make brownies, not brownie mix. See? And then in the middle is this gooey caramel center. I can't say enough about these. So you start with those caramel candies, put them in a bowl, and then top them with a little evaporated milk. And then we're just gonna melt this in the microwave. Okay, it's gonna start looking like this, and then you just keep microwaving it in like 1-minute intervals. All right, for the batter, the cake mix, to that, some chopped pecans, a little bit more evaporated milk, and then a stick and a half of melted butter. So you didn't put egg in here because we don't want it to rise like a cake. You can totally bake this up in an aluminum pan also and just bring it straight to the table. I'm gonna bake it in a real pan and then cut it into squares and put it on the table. All right, so you're gonna take half of your batter and put it down on the bottom. And you're gonna bake that for 8 minutes. It's gonna be a really thin layer. Don't worry, just trust the process. The rest of the batter goes in the fridge while we bake this. I don't know where to put this. Okay, so this bakes for 8 minutes. 8 minutes later, and now when it comes out, we're gonna add chocolate chips to the top and let them start melting. And then we're gonna pour our caramel right over this. There's still a few little pieces that haven't fully melted, but it's okay. I don't really wanna stir it because you want that like layer of caramel. And now, our chilled cake mix, you're gonna roll it into little balls and then press them flat and then lay it right on top. It's gonna all kind of create this like marbled like turtle situation. Resist the urge to eat one every time you roll it up though. Gets a little bit messy, but so worth it. All right, and then these go back into the oven for 20 more minutes. Look at these, look at these. You can't understand the magic that just happened in this pan. You're gonna have to wait and see what they really look like when we get outside because these have to cool completely and then you cut them, but the inside stays so delicious and gooey. Another one you could make at least a day in advance and these stay delicious for a long time. They don't dry out like the others. So I'm just gonna let them cool completely, cut them into squares and serve them up. Look at all that. Barbecue has to have coleslaw with it. So I'm gonna show you how to make coleslaw. But why am I standing at the stove? Because this coleslaw has a hot like vinaigrette that you pour over it, and then it all comes together in the fridge. It stays crunchy, but it has the best flavor. It's like a sweet and sour kind of situation. But this is the way my family always makes coleslaw. And since we have like the creamy potato salad, I wanted more of a vinegar-based coleslaw. And it's also good because you don't have to keep it refrigerated. So it starts with a cup of sugar. Don't be scared. Okay, oh, and then a 1/3 cup of vegetable oil, and then 3/4 cup of white vinegar, and you can add a little more if you want it a little tangier, and then 2 teaspoons of celery seed. The celery seed is what gives it its different flavor. And then salt and pepper. Also gets just a dash of yellow mustard. And you only have to cook this until the sugar dissolves. So it'll come to a boil and it'll cook down for a few minutes, and then we just pour it over the cabbage. I didn't know it was called Amish coleslaw, but this is the way my aunt has always made it since I was born. All right, while that's going, I'm gonna chop up the cabbage. All you need is just 1 small head of green cabbage. So I like to just get it cut into more manageable sized pieces and then shred it up. I like the really long shreds because that's just reminiscent of what I've grown up eating. This is way prettier than the stuff that comes in a bag. Cut the same way you want to cut an onion. So just like a medium onion, thinly sliced, it gets kind of blended in there, and just slice it as thinly as possible. It does shrink down a little bit as it marinates, but it stays nice and crunchy. And you want to pour this over while it's hot. Then you get those little flecks of celery seed in there. It's so delicious. It's already happening. That's gonna be good. Not only can you make this ahead of time, you need to make this one ahead of time. So this one I would make at least a day before, but you can make it, even 2 days before. We are there. I'm gonna chill this, and then we are heading out to the grill. Barbecue chicken. There is nothing more all-American in a barbecue than barbecue chicken. I'm cooking these up the way like my dad used to. The cuts that I'm doing the most of, drumsticks and thighs. Bone in. These are gonna be your cheapest pieces of chicken, and they're gonna stay the juiciest on the grill. Now, some people do like just white meat, so you do kind of need that if you're having a party. But when you get these bone-in chicken breasts, they are just gigantic, And so it's really hard to grill when they're this big. So I like to cut them in half. Now you've got 2 smaller breast pieces. A couple months ago, I learned about the amazing thing that is pickle brined chicken. Marinating it in pickle juice and then grilling it was like some of the best grilled chicken I have ever had. So I think it will work just as well with this, and that's what I'm gonna do. So we always have leftover pickle juice at my house. My son goes through a jar a week, and I'm not exaggerating. So to the pickle juice, I'm just gonna add a little bit of brown sugar and a little salt and pepper. Brown sugar kind of mellows it out a little bit. It's salty, but it's not too salty, so you can still go in with a little salt and a lot of pepper. All right, and then just a little bit of cayenne. I'm gonna shake that up, and this is our brine. This has so much power and flavor. You don't have to do this too far in advance. Just like an hour is perfect. And I'm just gonna do it in a bag for easy cleanup. So I'm just gonna throw all of my chicken in here, pour the brine right on top. This is going to be the most flavorful, juiciest, tender grilled chicken you've ever had. Barbecue chicken. Because wait, when we get out there, we're making the sauce too. All right, now it's time to heat things up. Before I get my chicken going, we're gonna make our sauce. Barbecue sauce is so easy to make, you really don't have to buy it. I promise you probably already have everything in your condiment drawer on your refrigerator or in your pantry. My mom, my grandmother always just made their own. For me, the base is usually ketchup. Sometimes I'll add a little bit of tomato puree in there also. Now I'm going to attach some recipes here, but really this is where I want you to be creative and kind of make it your own. All the ingredients are generally similar, so just adjust it to your taste. So I'm going in with ketchup. That's gonna be our tomato. I am from Alabama, so we are like a tomato-based barbecue sauce kind of people. But I did live in South Carolina for a while, and that is a vinegar-based situation. So I really like my tomato sauce heavy on the vinegar. So it's really thin, because I think that really cuts, the richness in the meat. I'll definitely add mustard because I love a mustard-based barbecue sauce also. So really, my barbecue sauce is a mixture of all my favorite barbecue sauces. And I like the yellow mustard because it's got that vinegary taste too. And then in some brown sugar. At the end of the day, what I'm looking for is something that is sweet and salty, super tangy, and has a kick of spice. So I like a combination of apple cider vinegar and white vinegar. You can do one or the other. Some Worcestershire for kind of that savory note. A little garlic powder, salt, and lots of pepper. For my heat, I'm going with some crushed red pepper and a little hot sauce. We start there and then we adjust. Now I like my barbecue sauce to be like kind of runny, not too thick, so I'm gonna thin it out with a little water because that way it won't adjust the flavor too much. And then I can add a little vinegar too if I need to. I'm gonna add one more ingredient, and this is just because my dad always did this. There was always a half a lemon floating in there. It's just a little more acid and it just kind of brightens up the sauce a little bit. So I'm gonna squeeze it in and then just let it simmer. You can get a heavy bottomed pot and you can just leave it low on your grill, or if you're lucky and fancy like we are, you can get a grill that has a little burner on the side. So I'm gonna let that simmer, and then we're gonna heat up the grill for our chicken. I can't stress enough how much you're gonna love this chicken when it has been brined in pickle juice. So you wanna take your chicken out though and pat it dry, that way we can still get some good caramelization. Before I season it, I'm gonna brush it with just a little oil, just for extra insurance and crispiness and flavor. And just a little more. All right, and then we grill. So when it comes to the grill, this is chicken, okay? It's not as fast as when you're cooking burgers. So I like to err on the side of caution, and I go for more of a medium heat with several turns. I wanna get some color, so I might start out a little bit on the higher side and then I crank it down. All right, we're starting to develop the color. I'm gonna turn the grill down a little bit, and then when it's about halfway done, I'm gonna start basting it with our barbecue sauce. As you do that, the sugars in that are gonna caramelize and you're gonna even get more flavor and little crusty bits. That's what we want. I've told you once, I've told you a million times, the simplest things are the best, and this is an example of one of them. I got a couple more things and then we're setting the table. Every barbecue table has to have watermelon, at least in my household. We can take this watermelon and make it a little more special. A little lime, a little Tajín makes this so delicious. It is my favorite fruit. Find a way to jazz it up and it's like new again. So I would just serve it, like let people kind of do their own. Cut up some watermelon wedges, add some slices of lime. Isn't that cute? And then a little sprinkle of Tajín. Maybe I should taste it to see. I wouldn't want to serve anybody anything bad. It's like sweet and sour and salty and tangy. See, you can even make a simple fruit something special. For my final trick, a fun cocktail. The kids will have their juice boxes and we will have our Arnold Palmers. However, we're gonna spike these and make them a John Daly. You know what I mean? If you know, you know. Arnold Palmer, as we know, equal parts lemonade and sweet tea. My kids love an Arnold Palmer, minus the vodka. So I will have to label these at our party. One boozy, then one not so much. I like a little more sweet tea than lemonade in my portions. Store-bought, both of those just fine. And then make it boozy. You could do bourbon, which I've done before, but I think for a summer barbecue, the vodka speaks to me a little louder. Give it a stir, and then your guests can just pour this simply over ice. It's ready to go. Finish it off, a little squeeze of lemon. Cheers. It's quite refreshing. Let's eat, shall we? When planning the menu, I took care to really put things out here that could be served room temperature, where we're not really worried about whether they stay hot or cold. The exception is the potato salad. That really does need to stay cold because it's got the mayonnaise and the eggs and everything. This hack blows my mind. Fill it up with a little bit of water, let it freeze, and then you set your potato salad right on top. I'm sorry, but that's just genius. We nailed it. This is the perfect barbecue plate for me. This is the best potato salad. But those beans, I mean, they just get better as they sit. You would definitely have people fooled that these came from a can because you can see like the real bacon in there, not those like weird chunks that come in some cans. That's just a for sure yes. Now the slaw, it gets better with age. Like I don't like a creamy slaw when I have a creamy potato salad. So these two together in the same bite makes a perfect bite. But we gotta try that barbecue chicken. When that sauce kind of like cooks on there as you baste it, it becomes like sticky. That is so flippin' good. It is juicy. There's a ton of flavor. See how juicy that is? The best drumstick, heck, the best chicken is barbecue chicken. And we're gonna end on a sweet note. Look how good that looks. I mean, if that's not a perfect bite, I don't know what is. Oh my God, that's my childhood at the lake right there. I had forgotten about these. 13 out of 10. You wanna make this for sure. We did it. You've got to admit, this was pretty easy. We didn't have to order anything takeout from a restaurant or the grocery store. We did it all ourselves. We might have taken some shortcuts. Nothing was like super expensive, so really you could make this whole meal, feed a lot of people for not a ton of money. All in all, I think we nailed it. Besides the summer heat, we didn't even break a sweat. You can do this. You better make these brownies.